Hey everyone, time for some more behind the scenes facts and details for DbD. Let's get into it. Early character design is something you've likely heard a bit about. I imagine some people are aware of the launch trailer for DbD, where we saw the survivors looking quite different. This is presumably Dwight, this is Meg, this is Claudette, and Jake. No sign of Jake. Interestingly though, the map they're on, Torment Creek, and Trapper are completely the same as they ended up being, aside probably some small details. What's even more interesting is when looking at the art book and seeing the even earlier versions of the characters, and what it seems was the basis for the ones shown in the trailer. I do find it strange too because this trailer released after the open beta. In-game, in the beta, these versions of the characters weren't present, but instead the current versions. It's pretty likely therefore that this trailer was made quite a bit before the release of the game, because I imagine it's no easy task to make a completely new character model. With this said, in the alpha version, these characters were in there, so it means somewhere between the beta and the alpha, the characters were changed, but ultimately the trailer didn't. Probably because it had been rendered before, and it would have been a waste to lose that work, which is completely fair. What I find really strange though is that Dwight and Jake were finalized in the alpha, Meg and Claudette weren't, and the guy we saw in that first trailer wasn't even there. This means the trailer was made likely before the alpha. Looking at the art book, we can see even earlier versions of these characters that later became the ones we knew. This is presumably Claudette, this is presumably Meg, and these three I'm honestly not sure. These three guys all have features of Jake, I would say, in very small ways, and none of them look like Dwight really. It's very possible that these were just early characters that didn't end up being in the game. Another thing I noticed, and something quite interesting, was that the planned tattoos for Meg were slowly phased out as her design was developed, with a later, more final image of Meg still having small tattoos visible, with one on her arm it seems, and one on her lower leg or ankle. I'm not sure why they decided to remove that aspect of her design, but there you go. In the concept art, the characters to stay the closest to their original designs are actually the killers, which I suppose makes sense as their masks are more of a solid icon rather than the survivors who are just like people. In the concept art, it does seem there was an initial toss-up almost, between whether to pick the base outfit for Trapper or this one, which is now in the store, in several different parts. It seems ultimately they went for the base look, but I do think it would have been interesting if it had been the other way around. In the prototype build, there's a character visible wielding a machete-like weapon with a gas mask, so maybe even further back, when they were initially just building the basics of the game, there was this idea for a miner character, miner as in someone who mines, who later became Trapper or Evan McMillan, who of course owns the McMillan estate, which has a mine. Quite possibly before the bear mask idea, he would have worn a gas mask. Another mask that can be seen in the prototype versions is someone with a bunny mask, which quite possibly was a very early idea, probably not designed just yet or anything, but an early idea for Huntress, or again more likely just the idea of the mask for a character who later became the Huntress. The other outfit concept for Trapper featured the mask Iron Chuckles, that was given as a reward during the Year 1 anniversary event, along with the machete weapon. The name Iron Chuckles comes from Trapper's nickname within the files, which is Chuckles, presumably for the smile. The smile seems to be a key Trapper feature, with even final in-game Benedict entries naming him the miserable smiling killer. Billy also had a different variation on his final outfit, which was this one, which is available in the Bloodstained Sack DLC, which was an early DLC and included a combination of different things, all of which seemed inspired by the initial concept art, which didn't quite make it to the game. Interestingly, as part of this pack, you have a World War II nurse outfit, which is a further suggestion she was a nurse during the war, although this doesn't make too much sense because her timeline does seem to be more during World War I, but either way, it points to that in some capacity. There's also a Wraith outfit that you can somewhat recreate. In the art book, there's a bunch of stuff visible that seems to have been planned but never made it to the live version of the game, one of them being Graffiti. Now in the art book, it's literally just a page of graffiti with the caption Graffiti, so it's not entirely clear how this would have been implemented in-game. This graffiti was maybe simply meant to be visible in the trials, like some scary artwork on the walls, because it does look creepy. The alternative thing is that survivors would have been able to spray paint on the walls these images, maybe an early form of communication or something like that. That's pure speculation though. What do you think the graffiti was planned to be used for? It could have been something that previous survivors of trials had put into the trials almost as warnings, so dangerous areas would be sprayed with the creepy characters, or loud areas where you're likely to get located, there would be crows to notify you. It's mainly the term graffiti that gets me about this, because it makes me think it would have been implemented in some form, and some usable form in game, most likely for survivors. I also found some things currently in game that these images reminded me of. It may be coincidental, very likely, but still worth considering, I think. It would actually be a very good way, I think, of implementing a beginner mode almost, where graffiti could appear to guide and help a newer player. You may remember from some previous videos that in the prototype version of the game, there was a version of pallets, or maybe what pallets were going to be before, which was bookshelves, that you would throw down to stun and block the killer's path. The artbook expands on this with its interactive items page. On this page we can see many things depicted. The most interesting thing, and something I thought was particularly funny, was this object. It looks like those things you sometimes see in films where someone knocks over a pile of beams and take out someone chasing them, or something like that. It looks like maybe you could have cut the wires and they would have spilled onto the ground, blocking or slowing down your pursuer. Stats and UI were another thing that was seemingly planned and changed. This one I would love. Not much to say, but there's like a whole page mentioning things like escape or survival streaks being counted, stats, like very detailed stats. Man, I would have liked that. It's pretty much all just placeholder text, so this was likely a very early concept that was scrapped, as these screens also look entirely different to the final product. This is me being completely over speculative now, but these skulls on this escape streak page possibly were an idea for some kind of reward system for escapes, with this one being locked out and the previous ones being highlighted. A reward system for escapes would be so cool. That is like hyper speculative though. More stuff I found is the name of this category. On another whiteboard image there was some lists I noticed that I thought were worth looking at, and over speculating again. One list consists of day, night, dawn, dusk, rain, fog, storm, blood moon, harvest moon, dark, stars, moon. These were seemingly planned weather states that would be in game. Ones that particularly caught my eye were the storm and the blood moon. Harvest moon I believe is essentially just a full moon, which is like in most of the trials I believe. But the blood moon is during a lunar eclipse I believe, where the moon appears red and there's lots of bad omens attached to it. This would have been awesome I think to have actually gotten a blood moon type thing in game, maybe for some kind of special event or something like that. The storm idea is one I can only imagine was removed because it would have been way too taxing for the game and would have caused performance issues. The other list I noticed was a list of calendar events. Listed for possible events are Friday the 13th, full moon, eclipse, Halloween, super slashes, special events, XP bonus, and bonus costumes. Interestingly, it seems the early ideas for events would have been focused around things like moon cycles, which ties in well with the name of the game I suppose. A bit like the stuff we discussed in the first video, I think this was probably removed as the game shifted its lore and away from more grounded things. It wouldn't make much sense to have events based around the moon cycle within a spider god realm, where it can basically choose what the moon looks like. Friday the 13th was also possibly going to be an event day. I guess we kind of got that with rank reset always being on the 13th. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts too. Thanks, and goodbye.